I was 14 when my folks decided I wasn't worth keeping around. It was a muggy July afternoon, the kind where the air sticks to your skin like damp cotton. We lived in a small town in Ohio, where the river cut through the fields like a lazy snake. My parents, Carl and Donna, weren't what you'd call model citizens. Dad worked odd jobs at the lumberyard when he wasn't nursing a bottle, and Mom had a way of making you feel small with just a glance. They weren't cruel all the time, but when they were, it stuck with you. That day, they told me we were going fishing. I was excited, believe it or not. I thought maybe we'd have one of those rare good days, like when I was little and Dad taught me how to bait a hook. We piled into their rusty pickup, me in the back with a beat-up tackle box. The river was about 20 minutes out, a quiet spot with willows drooping over the banks. When we got there, Dad handed me a fishing pole, but it was broken, line tangled, hook missing. I looked at him, confused, and he just smirked. "Figure it out, Nate," he said. "You're always whining about something. Show us you can handle it." Mom was unpacking a bag, but it wasn't fishing gear, just a couple of beers and some smokes. I stood there, pole in hand, feeling like I'd missed a punchline. Then Dad grabbed my shoulder, hard, and pushed me toward the water. "Go on, boy. Catch something or don't come back." I stumbled, boots sinking into the mud. I thought he was joking, but when I turned, they were both staring at me, cold as stone. Mom lit a cigarette and said, "You heard him. Prove you're not a burden." I waded in, the current tugging at my knees. The river was deeper than it looked, and I wasn't much of a swimmer. I kept waiting for them to laugh, to call me back, but instead, I heard the truck's engine roar to life. I spun around just in time to see them peeling out, gravel flying, radio blaring some old country tune. I shouted after them, voice cracking, but they didn't even slow down. The last thing I saw was Mom's hand out the window, flicking her cigarette into the dirt. Panic hit me like a freight train. I tried to climb back to shore, but the current was stronger now, pulling me downstream. The broken pole slipped from my hands, and I flailed, swallowing water that tasted like mud and metal. I went under once, twice, each time clawing my way back up, lungs burning. The third time, I didn't think I'd make it. My legs were numb, vision blurring, when something grabbed my shirt and yanked me up. It was a stranger, a guy in a flannel shirt with a beard like a briar patch. He dragged me to the bank, coughing and shivering, and wrapped me in a tarp from his boat. "You all right, kid?" he asked, voice gruff but kind. I couldn't talk, just shook my head. He asked where my folks were, and I lied through chattering teeth. "I don't got any." It wasn't true, but it felt true. He didn't push, just nodded like he understood more than I'd said. His name was Hank, a mechanic who liked to fish on weekends. He could have called the cops, but I begged him not to. I told him my parents would make it worse if anyone got involved. He looked at me for a long time, then drove me to a diner instead. Bought me a burger and called a friend who knew someone at a foster agency. I don't know how he pulled it off, but by nightfall, I was in a group home, not back with Carl and Donna. That man saved my life, plain and simple. Now I'm 35, and I've done all right for myself. I run a small auto shop in Columbus, fixing cars and keeping my head down. I've got a one-bedroom place, nothing fancy, but it's mine. Built it all from scratch after years of scraping by foster homes, night classes, jobs that left my hands stained with grease. I hadn't thought about my parents in years, not really. Until last week, when my phone started blowing up with calls from a number I didn't know. Life's funny sometimes. You spend years building walls to keep the past out, and then one day, it starts ringing your phone like it's got a right to be there. I'm 35 now, got my auto shop, a decent apartment with a couch that's finally broken and just right. I don't think about my parents much. Carl and Donna faded into a bad memory, like a bruise you forget until someone presses it. But last week, they came crashing back. It started Monday morning. I was under a Chevy, wrestling with a stubborn oil pan, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. Customers don't call me direct, and telemarketers can wait. But it kept going, 5 times in a row. By the time I slid out and checked, there were 8 missed calls from some random Ohio number. No voicemail, just the calls, like someone was desperate to make sure I noticed. I figured it was a scam, blocked it, and went back to work. Tuesday, it happened again. Different number, same area code. I was grabbing coffee at the shop, stirring sugar into a styrofoam cup, when the buzzing started. 6 calls by noon. I blocked that one too, but my gut was starting to twist. Nobody calls that much unless they want something bad. Wednesday, I got a text. It came through just as I was locking up the shop, the street lights flickering on outside. "Nathan, it's your mom. We need to talk. Please call us." I stood there in the doorway, staring at those words until the screen went dark. My coffee cup was still in my hand, cold as ice. I didn't reply, didn't call back. I went home, cracked a beer, and sat on my balcony, watching cars pass on the street below. 21 years since they left me in that river, choking on water while they drove off whooping like it was a game. Now they wanted to chat? I laughed, but it wasn't funny. It was the kind of laugh that hurts your chest. My phone lit up again, another text, this time from Dad. "Son, we messed up bad. Give us a chance to explain." Son. That word felt like a punch. I'm not proud to admit it, but I spent that night digging. I'm no detective, but I know my way around a computer. Running a business means you learn how to check up on people, deadbeat customers, shady suppliers. Finding Carl and Donna wasn't hard. They're still in that same falling-apart house outside Dayton, the one with the sagging porch I used to sweep as a kid. Dad's been out of work for years, something about a knee injury from a roofing job. Mom's picking up shifts at a gas station, barely enough to keep the lights on. Their social media is a mess, public posts about hard times, hospital bills, a beat-up sedan for sale. There's even a picture of Dad holding a fish, looking like he's trying to prove he's still got it. Mom's got this forced smile in every photo, like she's posing for a life she doesn't have. By Thursday, the calls were up to 15 a day. My phone was a ticking bomb, vibrating every hour. I'd mute it during jobs, but every time I checked, there they were, missed calls, texts begging me to pick up. "We're so sorry, Nathan. We just want to hear your voice." I dropped my phone once, hands shaking so bad I fumbled it onto the shop floor. Grease smeared the screen, but I could still see Mom's name glowing. I kept thinking about that riverbank, the way the water pulled at me, the sound of their truck fading into the distance. I was a kid, mouthy sure, but just a kid. They didn't just leave me, they tossed me away like trash. And now, what? They're sorry? I could feel something building in me, not hot like anger usually is, but cold, sharp, like a blade you've been sharpening for years without realizing. Friday morning, I was torquing a lug nut when the phone rang again. I'd had enough. I wiped my hands on a rag, picked it up, and answered. "What?" I said, voice flat. There was a pause, then Mom's voice, thin and wobbly, like she'd been crying. "Nathan, oh God, it's you. It's Mom. We've been trying so hard to reach you." I didn't say anything, just let the silence sit there, heavy. I could hear her breathing, quick and uneven, like she was scared I'd hang up. "We know we hurt you," she went on. "We were awful, and we don't deserve you answering. But please, just hear us out." I leaned against the workbench, staring at a dented fender I hadn't fixed yet. "You got 5 seconds, I said. She started rambling. "Sorry this, sorry that. We were in a bad place. We didn't mean it." I cut her off. "You remember the river, Donna?" I don't know why I called her that instead of Mom. It just came out. The line went quiet, like I'd sucked the air out of her. Then Dad's voice came on, gruff but shaky. "We remember, Nate. We live with it every day." I hung up. Didn't say goodbye, didn't need to. My hands were steady now, but my head was spinning. They remembered. Good. That meant they knew what they owed me. I turned off my phone, grabbed my keys, and started planning. They thought they could just waltz back into my life, crying sorry like it erases everything. But I'm not that kid anymore, gasping for air in the mud. They taught me how to survive. Now I'd show them what that really means. After I hung up on my parents, the world felt quieter, like I'd slammed a door on a storm. But inside, my head was loud, memories of that river, their voices on the phone, the way they thought a few apologies could fix what they broke. I'm 35, own an auto shop in Columbus, got a life I clawed my way into. Carl and Donna don't get to just show up and act like they belong in it. I needed to know what they were really after, so I started digging. I've always been good at fixing things, cars, mostly, but people leave trails just like engines leave oil. Saturday morning, I skipped my usual coffee run and fired up my laptop. My apartment's small, just a couch, a TV, and a table I built from scrapwood. Sunlight was creeping through the blinds, hitting the screen as I searched for Carl and Donna. It didn't take long to find them. They're still in that crumbling house in Dayton, the one I can still picture down to the cracked mailbox. Public records showed they're behind on property taxes, and there's a lien on the place. Dad's got no job history since he wrecked his knee 8 years back. Mom's clocking hours at a gas station, minimum wage, barely enough for groceries. Social media told a sadder story. Dad's page had a few posts, him posing with a deer he hunted, looking proud but worn out, and a grainy shot of their truck with a for sale sign. Mom's was worse. She'd shared a post about family being forever, which made my stomach turn, and a blurry selfie at a hospital, no caption, just her face looking hollow. I found a crowdfunding page they'd set up last year, asking for help with medical bills. Raised $112 before it stalled. They're drowning, and I'm guessing that's why my phone won't stop ringing. By noon, I pieced together their mess. Carl's got heart trouble, hospital records I shouldn't have access to showed 2 ER visits last year. Donna's got no savings, no retirement, nothing but that job and a house they can't afford. They've been asking around about me, too. An old neighbor from Dayton posted on a community board, saying Carl stopped by, fishing for info on his boy. Someone must have told them I'm doing okay, shop's turning a profit, I'm not starving. Suddenly, they're full of regret. The calls kept coming all weekend, 20 by Sunday night, texts piling up like leaves in a gutter. "Nathan, we're begging you, just talk to us. We know we don't deserve it, but we're different now." I didn't answer, but I read every word, letting their desperation sink in. Part of me wanted to block them and move on, pretend they're dead like I've done for years. But another part, the kid who woke up coughing river water, wanted them to squirm. I wasn't sure what I'd do yet, but I knew it wouldn't be forgiveness. Monday, I called in a favor. I've got a buddy, Mike, who does private investigator work on the side. Nothing fancy, just tracking down deadbeats or snapping photos of cheating spouses. I asked him to poke around, see what else he could find about my folks. He didn't ask why, just said he'd have something by Wednesday. I spent those days working, replacing a transmission, balancing tires, keeping my hands busy so my mind wouldn't run wild. Customers noticed I was off, asked if I was okay. I'd shrug. Say I was just tired. Hard to explain your parents trying to crawl back into your life after leaving you to die. Tuesday night, I was eating takeout, scrolling through Mom's old posts, when I found something that stopped me cold. A photo from 15 years ago, me at 12, grinning with a wrench in my hand. I'd helped Dad fix a neighbor's mower. Felt like a king for it. Caption read, "My boy's got his dad's hands." Seeing it now, it didn't make me nostalgic. It made me mad. They don't get to claim me. Not after what they did. I slammed the laptop shut, hard enough to rattle the table. Mike called Wednesday morning, right as I was opening the shop. "Your folks are in deep, Nate," he said. "House is 3 months from foreclosure. Carl's got prescriptions he can't fill, and Donna's been selling jewelry to cover bills. They're reaching out because they're scared. Word is, they think you're their ticket out." I thanked him, hung up, and stood there, staring at a toolbox like it could tell me what to do next. Scared, huh? Good. They should be. That afternoon, another text came through. "Dad, this time. We're not asking for much, Nathan. Just a conversation. We owe you that." "Owe me? That's rich." I didn't reply, but I saved the message. My plan was starting to take shape, not revenge, not exactly, but something to make them face what they did. I thought about that river, the way their taillights disappeared, and I knew one thing for sure. Whatever they wanted, they weren't getting it easy. I'd make them earn every word they got out of me, and even then, I'd be the one deciding what came next. I've spent my life fixing things, carburetors, brakes, transmissions that scream for mercy. But fixing the past? That's a job I never signed up for. After finding out my parents, Carl and Donna, were drowning in debt and sniffing around for a handout, I knew their calls weren't about love. They wanted something, same as always. I'm 35, got my auto shop in Columbus, a life I built without them. But that river they left me in 21 years ago, it's still there, tugging at me. So I decided to play a game, make them feel what it's like to chase something that keeps slipping away. Thursday morning, I was elbow deep in a radiator job when my phone buzzed again. Another text from Mom. "Nathan, please, we just want to see you." I wiped grease off my hands and stared at it. Part of me wanted to drive to Dayton, kick their door down, and yell until my voice gave out. But that's not me, not anymore. I'm careful now, like torquing a bolt just right so it doesn't strip. I texted back, first time in a week. "What's this about?" "Be straight." Her reply came in seconds, like she'd been glued to her phone. "We want to make things right. Can we call?" I agreed, but on my terms. Told them I'd call at 7 p.m., no sooner. The rest of the day, I kept busy, aligned a set of tires, ordered parts, joked with a customer about the Browns' lousy season. But my head was on that call. When I finally dialed, I was sitting on my balcony, city lights blinking below. Mom picked up on the first ring, voice all shaky. "Nathan, thank you for calling." Dad was there too, coughing in the background, sounding older than 58. They started with apologies, same as before. "We were wrong," Mom said, sniffling. "We were messed up, drinking too much, fighting. We didn't mean to hurt you." I let them talk, didn't interrupt. Dad chimed in, voice rough. "We should have looked harder for you, Nate. We were ashamed." Ashamed. That word stuck in my craw. Not sorry, not guilty. Ashamed, like it was about their feelings, not me choking on river water. I cut to the chase. "You gonna mention the river? How you drove off laughing while I was sinking?" Silence. Then Mom started crying, saying they didn't laugh, they were just scared, didn't know what they were doing. Dad mumbled something about it being a bad day, like that explained it. I pressed harder. "Why now? What do you want after 21 years? More silence. Then Mom's voice, barely a whisper. "We're losing everything, Nathan. The house, our health. We thought, maybe you could help us start over." There it was. The truth, naked as a stripped engine. They weren't calling for me. They were calling for my wallet. I leaned back, staring at the stars, and felt that cold thing in me sharpen. "I'll think about it," I said, voice flat. "But you gotta prove you mean it. Write me a letter, both of you. Handwritten. Tell me what happened that day, every detail, no lies. Mail it to my shop." They agreed so fast it was pathetic, like they thought I was handing them a lifeline. The letters showed up Monday, 2 envelopes in my shop's mailbox. I took them home, poured a glass of whiskey, and sat at my kitchen table. Mom's was long, pages of loopy handwriting, full of tears and excuses. How they were broke, how Dad was drunk, how she panicked when they couldn't find me. Dad's was shorter, blocky letters, saying he was sorry but I'd been hard to handle. Neither mentioned the way they smirked when they pushed me into the water, or how their radio blared as they left me to die. It was like they'd rewritten history to make themselves the victims. I didn't call them back. Instead, I upped the game. Tuesday, I texted, "Meet me at the diner on Route 40, 3 p.m. tomorrow. I'll hear you out." I picked a spot an hour from their place, knowing it had cost them gas they couldn't afford. I didn't go. They texted me from the diner, confused, then worried. "We're here, Nathan. Where are you?" I waited 2 hours, then replied, "Got held up at work. My bad. Try again Friday, different place." I picked a coffee shop even farther out. They showed up again, I didn't. By the third time, Dad sent a message that almost made me laugh. "This ain't right, Nate. We're doing our best." I shot back. "Was it right when you left me in the river?" No reply. I wasn't done, though. Saturday, I told them to meet me at a steakhouse, fancy place in downtown Dayton. Bring something from when I was a kid, I said. Prove you remember me. I made a reservation, told them to order food, said I'd cover it. I showed up late, after they'd been there an hour, picking at overpriced burgers they couldn't pay for. They looked rough. Mom's hair was flat. Dad's shirt had a stain. On the table was a shoebox, old and dented. I sat down, didn't smile. What's that? I asked. Mom pushed it toward me, eyes red. Things we kept. Your stuff. I opened it. Baseball cards, a toy car, a photo of me at 10, holding a fish with Dad. My chest tightened, but I didn't let it show. I asked why they were really here. Mom broke, voice cracking. We're gonna lose the house, Nathan. Medical bills are killing us. We heard you're doing good. Can you help? I paid their bill, $150, and leaned back. I'll think about it, I said. But you gotta show me you're serious. Sell that deer rifle Dad loves. Send me the receipt. They nodded, too eager, like dogs chasing a bone. I walked out, photo in my pocket, feeling like I'd won something, but it didn't taste as sweet as I'd hoped. They'd hurt me, sure, but making them dance like this, was it fixing anything, or just breaking me too? I've spent my life keeping things under control, cars, bills, my temper. But messing with my parents, Carl and Donna, was like driving with no brakes. I'd started this game, making them jump through hoops to prove they were sorry for leaving me in that river 21 years ago. I'm 35 now, got my auto shop in Columbus, a decent life I built from nothing. But every time I pushed them, making them drive to diners I never showed at, telling them to sell Dad's prized deer rifle, I felt less like a winner and more like I was stuck in the same mud I'd crawled out of as a kid. Sunday night, I got a text from Dad with a photo of a pawn shop receipt. He'd sold the rifle, just like I asked. We did it, Nathan, he wrote. Please, can we talk now? I stared at that picture, the numbers blurring. That gun was his pride, the one he'd clean on the porch while telling me hunting stories I used to love. I didn't feel powerful. I felt heavy, like I'd traded something I couldn't name. Mom sent another message. We're trying so hard. What else do you want? Good question. I wasn't sure anymore. Monday, I kept it going. Told them to write another letter, this one about why they thought I'd help them now, after everything. I said to leave it at a park bench in Dayton, under a rock, like some spy movie. I didn't plan to pick it up. I just wanted them scrambling again, burning gas and time they didn't have. They did it, sent me a photo of the envelope, rock and all. I ignored it, but my phone kept buzzing. We left the letter. Nathan, are you coming? I let them stew, picturing them waiting by that bench, checking their watches. Tuesday, I was torquing a wheel when my shop phone rang. Not my cell, the landline, which nobody uses except suppliers. I answered, half expecting a wrong number. It was Hank, the guy who pulled me from the river all those years ago. I hadn't heard his voice in a decade, but it was like no time had passed, gruff, steady, like an old truck. Nate, he said, your folks tracked me down. Found me at the bait shop, asking about you. My stomach dropped. What did they want? I asked, leaning against the counter, grease rag forgotten in my hand. Hank said they were a mess, Mom crying, Dad barely talking, both looking like they hadn't slept in days. They'd heard he'd saved me, wanted to know how bad it was, how close I'd come to not making it. I told him the truth, Hank said. You were half dead, lips purple, scared out of your mind. Told him you said you had no family, and I made sure you didn't go back to them. He paused, then asked, what's going on, Nate? They said you're stringing them along. What's your play here? I spilled it all, the calls, the letters, the fake meetings, the rifle. Hank listened, didn't interrupt. When I finished, he sighed, long and heavy. I get it, kid. They did you wrong, worse than wrong. But this game you're playing, it's eating you up too, ain't it? I didn't answer right away. He was right, but admitting it felt like losing. Come back to the river, he said. Bring them. Face it where it happened. I'll be there if you need me. I mumbled something about thinking it over and hung up, but his words stuck like burrs. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept seeing that river, the way it looked when I was 14, dark and endless. I thought about Mom's texts, Dad's receipt, Hank's voice. Wednesday, I texted my parents, meet me at the river, Saturday noon. Bring proof you're serious, bank papers, whatever you've got. I'm done with games. They replied instantly, promising to be there, thanking me like I'd already saved them. I didn't correct them. This wasn't about saving anybody, it was about settling something, even if I didn't know what. Friday, I closed the shop early, told my part-time guy I had personal stuff. Drove to a hardware store, bought a cheap fishing pole, same kind Dad gave me that day. Held it in my hands, feeling the weight, picturing him tossing it at me with that smirk. I wasn't sure why I bought it. Maybe to throw it in the water, maybe to break it in front of them. All I knew was Saturday was coming, and whatever happened, it'd be the last time Carl and Donna had any hold over me. I wasn't the kid they left behind. They'd see that soon enough. Saturday morning, I woke up with my heart pounding, like I'd been running in my sleep. The river was waiting, same spot where Carl and Donna left me to sink 21 years ago. I'm 35, got my own shop, my own life, but standing in my apartment, packing a thermos of coffee, I felt 14 again, scared, angry, alone. I grabbed the fishing pole I'd bought, still in its plastic wrap, and headed out. The drive to Dayton was quiet, Just me and the hum of my truck's engine, sky gray like it might rain. I got to the river early, parked behind some trees so they wouldn't see me right away. The place looked smaller than I remembered, the water sluggish, willows sagging like tired old men. I walked to the bank, boots crunching gravel, and stood where it happened. I could still feel the current pulling at me, hear their truck roaring away. The fishing pole felt heavy in my hand, like it was tying me to that day. I set it down and waited, checking my phone. Hank texted he was on his way, running late because of a flat tire. Figures, life's always got a way of throwing wrenches. At 11:50, I heard tires on the road. Their sedan pulled up, same junker from Dad's photos, paint chipped, one headlight foggy. They got out slow, like they were afraid of what they'd find. Mom had a manila folder, clutching it like a shield. Dad leaned on a walker, not a cane, his face gray and drawn. They didn't see me at first, just stood there, scanning the trees. I watched them through the willows, my pulse steady but loud. They looked beat down, like life had been grinding them up same as it did me. Hank showed up 5 minutes later, parking his old Jeep next to their car. He didn't say much, just nodded at them and started walking toward the river, hands in his pockets. That's when I stepped out. Mom gasped, dropped the folder, paper scattering. Dad froze, gripping his walker so hard his knuckles went white. "Nathan," Mom said, voice breaking. I didn't answer, just picked up the fishing pole and walked to the water's edge, motioning for them to follow. Hank hung back, watching, like he'd promised. I pointed to the spot where they'd pushed me in. "Right here," I said. "This is where you told me to figure it out. Where you drove off." Mom started crying, shaking her head. Dad stared at the ground, muttering, "We know. Nate. We know." I held up the pole. "You gave me one just like this. Broken, useless. Said I was a burden. What was I supposed to do with that?" My voice was calm, but it cut through the air like a blade. Mom tried to talk, words tripping over sobs. "We were drunk, Nathan. We were falling apart, bills, fights, everything. We didn't mean for it to go so far." Dad nodded, I still down. "It was stupid. We were stupid. We looked for you after, but you were gone." I laughed, sharp and cold. "Looked for me? You were laughing when you left. I heard it. Don't lie now." Hank stepped closer, not interfering, just there. I asked the question I'd been carrying for years. "Why'd you do it?" Not the excuses, the real reason. They went quiet, the river gurgling behind us. Finally, Dad spoke, voice barely above a whisper. "We were ashamed of ourselves. You were smart, Nate, always asking questions, pointing out what we couldn't fix. We hated how you saw us." Mom added, "We thought you'd be better off without us. Then we were too scared to face what we'd done." Their words hit like a wrench to the chest. It wasn't some evil plan, just two broken people dumping their failures on a kid. I looked at Hank, who nodded, like he'd known this part all along. He spoke up, voice low. "I found him right over there." Half drowned, shaking, said he had no parents. "I made sure he didn't go back to you. Want to know why?" They nodded, Mom's face crumpling. "Because he deserved better than folks who'd throw him away." I set the fishing pole down, not breaking it, just letting it lie there. "You brought the papers?" I asked. Mom scrambled to pick them up, handing me the folder, bank statements, foreclosure notices, proof they were losing everything. I didn't open it. "I'm not here to save you," I said. "I'm here to end this." Their faces fell, but I wasn't done. I needed to know if they'd changed, or if they were just chasing my money. And I needed to know what I'd do with the answer. The river kept flowing, same as it did when I was 14, same as it would tomorrow. Standing there with Carl and Donna, the people who'd left me to drown, I felt the weight of 21 years pressing down. I'm 35, got my shop, my life, but this moment, facing them where it all went wrong, was like staring into an engine you can't fix. Hank was nearby, his presence steady, reminding me I wasn't alone. The fishing pole I'd brought lay in the dirt, untouched, a piece of the past I didn't need to break. Mom held the folder of bank papers, hands trembling, tears streaking her face. Dad's walker creaked as he shifted, eyes fixed on the water like he could see that day playing out. I'd made them jump through hoops, letters, pawned rifles, empty diner booths, thinking it'd make me feel whole. But standing here, I realized it hadn't fixed a thing. It just kept me tethered to that scared kid, fighting a current he couldn't beat. I asked Hank to tell them more, to make it real. He cleared his throat, voice rough but clear. "Nathan was blue when I pulled him out. Thought he was gone. He begged me not to call the cops, said you'd hurt him worse. I've seen a lot, but that fear in his eyes, it stayed with me." Mom sank to her knees, sobbing into the gravel. Dad made a sound, half groan, half choke. "We didn't know," he whispered. "We didn't know it was that bad." I crouched down, level with Mom. "You knew enough," I said. "You chose to leave." She reached for me, but I stood, stepping back. I wasn't here for hugs or tears. I needed answers, not just for me, but for the life I built despite them. "Are you different now?" I asked, echoing Hank's question from the phone call. "Or is this just because you're broke?" Dad spoke first, voice cracked but firm. "I quit drinking 12 years ago. Been in a program since. It don't erase nothing, but it's what I could do." Mom wiped her eyes. "I go to church now, Nathan. I pray for you every day. We've tried to be better, but we know we can't undo it." I looked at the folder in my hands, their whole mess laid bare. $30,000 in debt, a house on the brink. They'd done what I asked, sold what mattered to them, stood here owning their shame. It wasn't enough, but it was something. I handed the folder back. I'm not paying your debts, I said. Their faces crumpled, but I kept going. I'm not your bank, and I'm not your son, not like you want. But I'm tired of carrying this. I pulled a slip of paper from my pocket, something I'd written last night, a check for $5,000, enough to keep their lights on for a while. Take this. Get help, real help. Therapy, whatever. But don't call me. Don't show up. If I ever hear from you again, it's because I reached out, not you. Mom clutched the check, nodding, whispering thanks through tears. Dad just stared at me, eyes wet but steady. You're a better man than me, Nate, he said. I didn't answer. Maybe he was right, maybe not. All I knew was I was done letting their choices steer my life. Hank walked me back to my truck, the river fading behind us. You did good, kid, he said, clapping my shoulder. Tough, but good. I asked why he'd stuck around all these years, checking on me now and then. He shrugged. Some folks cross your path for a reason. You were mine. We didn't say much after that. He invited me to fish with him next weekend, no pressure, just a rod and some quiet. I said I'd think about it. Sunday morning, I woke up different. Not fixed, not healed, but lighter, like I'd loosened a bolt that had been stuck too long. I drove to the shop, opened early, and started on a busted alternator. The work felt good, simple, mine. My phone stayed quiet, no calls, no texts. For the first time in weeks, I didn't check it. The river's still out there, but it's not pulling me under anymore. I've got my own road now, and I'm driving it.